Well, hey, I'm Ryan Leto with Home Team Energy, and today we're here to talk about solar loans in a high interest rate environment. So the question that we always get as we're talking to homeowners is, does solar really make sense or financial sense if financed with a high interest loan? And that's what we're here to talk about today. So we're going to look at a sample system. This is going to be a 10 kilowatt system, which is pretty typical for most homes here in Wisconsin. And it's going to offset somewhere between 80 to 100% of a home like this, right? A 2,000, 2,200 square foot, 2,500 square foot home, um, roughly 80 to 100% of their annual electric consumption. So a really nice size system. The price on that's going to start at about $25,000, qualifies for a 30% federal tax credit, which is $7,500. And then here in Wisconsin, we have a $500 focus on energy rebate. If you're not from Wisconsin, check with a local installer, see what other rebates that you in your state may qualify for. But here's what we're looking at for Wisconsin. And then the year one production value or savings would be about $2,000. All right, so if we look at a loan here, we're going to say let's finance 100% of that system price. So that's going to be $25,000 loan. It's going to be a 15-year loan at 6.7% right now. There's a couple of different banks we work with. This is the one that I personally like. I recommend. It has a nice, 15-year term, and it's still a high interest loan, right? 6.7%, but it's not as high as some others. We're looking at 9, 10% in other cases. But in this case here, payments $220 a month or annually would be about $2,640. So if we summarize year one, the solar production value, again, from the previous slide, we're going to be saving, or this system will be producing about $2,000 in energy value. The loan payment or the cost to service that loan is $2,640. And so that results in a loss of $640. And that's usually when people they look at it and they say, hey, that's enough for me. I'm not really that interested in going any further. I don't want to lose any more money. So, but hold on a second, right? The thing about this, as we talked about on the previous slide, is that it gets a tax credit and a rebate, right? So we don't want to forget about those. So you get a $7,500 tax credit, $500 rebate, that totals $8,000. So what we argue is, why don't you go ahead and use that $8,000 to help cover that spread? But you start with $8,000 in the bank, and then there's that spread or that gap, right? In the first year, again, it was $640. And so that drops that balance from 8,000 down to 7,360. And then you can look at the rest of the spreads. But as we go from year one down to year 8, that number drops pretty significantly. And the reason for that is because the value of the energy goes up over time, whereas the loan cost, the 2,640, that remains fixed right there. And so as the value of the energy goes up, the loan cost remains the same. We can start closing that gap or closing that spread. By year 9, you see that the value of the energy exceeds the cost of the loan. And so that $8,000 incentive balance that you start with on day one, or as soon as you monetize your tax credit, that'll drop down to about $5,200. And then in year 9, it starts climbing back up. All right, so again, the question is, does solar make financial sense if financed with a high interest loan? And I would argue that it does, right? We can show that it's 100% financed, right? You don't have to pull other cash out of other investments or take it out of your rainy day fund or anything like that. You can finance the solar system on its own 100%. It's cash flow positive from day one, right? It starts with, in this case, $8,000 is kind of that reserve fund that you set aside, and then we pull from that to cover any of that spread. But over 10 years, we're looking at a $5,500 total savings. So again, that's money that you would otherwise be sending to the federal government and or your local utility company, which if you're like me, I don't like sending money to either of those places. So this allows you to keep an extra $5,500 in your pocket, in your bank account over that first 10 years. And then if we look at the life of the system, which we projected out over 25 years, it'll probably last longer, but 25 years is a nice place to look because that's when the warranties start running out. But we're looking at over $50,000 in total savings with this system. Again, fully financed, cash flow positive day one, and then $50,000 of total savings over 25 years. Graphically, we'll just show it really quick here. We've got a couple of different lines, but the one I want to bring your attention to is the blue line, and that's just showing the total savings. So what we see, over here on the left-hand side, $8,000 is kind of that starting balance or your total savings. It drips down, right, or drops down rather, up to about year 9, down to about $5,200, and then it starts ticking back up to year 15, and then once year 15 hits, the loan is paid off, and then we see substantial savings, and that's where it's increasing up over that $50,000 mark. So again, Ryan with Home Team Energy here. I hope that was helpful for you as you're considering solar for your home. Feel free to reach out with any other questions.